What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of 4 Dummies, and tonight I am joined with the other 3 dummies. I have Mr. Robert Detoff.
Hello.
Mr. Just One.
Yo, what's happening?
And Mrs. Skullface.
Hello.
And tonight we are going to continue with the Collection Critique series. If you would like to hear the uninterrupted, unabridged, uncut version of this, feel free to subscribe to the Patreon at $5 a month, where you can get all of that and many more pieces of content to enjoy throughout the month. But for now, we're going to concentrate on this. You know, the routine. Check your feelings at the door. There's no time or place for that here. So we'll go ahead and get started. Our first entry is brought to us by Anthony C, who I have known for some time through comments and such in the community. But unfortunately, it's going to be my job to have to tell him that he has a bit of a Nona going on. I'm going to be honest with you, buddy, because you've been around for a long time and you deserve it. This looks like a piece of furniture that belongs on top of another piece of furniture that's meant to house china. But instead of fine china in the cabinet, now you have transformers, but it looks weird on the ground. That's my first initial hot take.
I think if you're sticking with this furniture for a while, you definitely need to get it off the ground. You need to put lights everywhere. You can invest in some lights.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at even like the one square that he has with lights, it obviously looks better than the rest that don't have it. But it doesn't even look like a piece of furniture that belongs on the ground. Like it looks like this piece of furniture doesn't look like something that's intended to house toys. And then on top of that, it doesn't look like something that belongs on the ground. It looks like grandma got tired of it sitting on top of the credenza that she had, and she gave it to you.
Yes, this is the china cabinet on top of the, what do you call that? Like a long
I say credenza.
Sideboard.
It is a credenza.
That's what it is. It's the top part of it. That's exactly what it is.
And it looks weird on the ground.
I mean, you'd be better off. I mean, look, and there's no excuse. I'm sorry. If you could afford all that fans project, you could afford any of those MMC figures, you could have 2 Billies. Even if you didn't want to spend money on really something imaginative, you could just get 2 Billies for the price of one of these figures.
That's true.
This dude's collection is small enough too that honestly my recommendation would be to paint that wall and just get some floating shelves.
Yeah, that would probably work great. To be fair, I like a lot of the hung art, so to speak. Like, he has a Jim Lee Batman from Batman Hush hung behind the Transformer shelf. He didn't picture it in full, but I can tell it's there. It's like on canvas, and it probably looks great. And then he has like that Batman piece hung over top of the light switch, which is like Batman's face in the middle, and then like shattered glass of all the different villains in each panel. And I think that looks great.
That's cool.
So like, I think he knows how to make something good. It just doesn't reflect in the action figures.
I wonder if this piece of furniture actually has some sentimental value for him.
That would be something.
But then again,
he's not treated like it does.
But then you look at this other furniture, that brown little dresser thing.
I mean, I think that unfortunately, this piece of furniture is not well suited. It's not the one. It's not well suited. But I think, like Robert said, do your Billies, or like just said, the floating shelves. Like, I think there are plenty of not super expensive options.
It's great that he doesn't have a collection that's like pouring over the seams, because the truth is that provides him an opportunity to have a pretty well displayed collection if he would choose to. It's not going to be in this piece of furniture. Let's move on to the next entry. This is from Todd L, who I believe I know. So I have mixed feelings about this. This thing
beyond the fingerprints, Bobby.
This collection is pushed to the gills. But given that it's pushed to the gills, I don't think it's awful. It's tight, and there's not enough room for any of these figures to fart. But given the space, I don't think they're displayed terribly within that space. That's my hot take.
They're displayed with care. They're displayed with care, and
they are,
and purpose, but that is way too much. The one black shelf is a little more.
The Hot Toys
GameStop was a good descriptive for it.
It looks like a GameStop store.
But my favorite section is these 2 cases with all these are they Power Rangers just in the box. Like, that corner of the room is the best to me because the figures in the case on the left, they're not so jam-packed, and the ones on the right that are jam-packed, at least the background in that case is black, so it makes everything pop. So my recommendation is on these other shelves that you have, the GameStop version that are all slotted, paint all that white a dark color, and I think it would look so much better.
Maybe. I think that this dude...
I think you got to cut down on the pieces, the quantity on those I think those shelves could look really cool.
Yeah.
But there's just way too much on there.
If you have a Hot Toys display, you're obviously not playing with your figures. Just Windex the damn shelf, man.
Yeah, that too.
You're not touching it ever.
It's so strange because this is Is this a Masterpiece collection? No, it's a Chug collection, right?
I think in the case, I think is Masterpiece, but on the shelf is not.
Oh, okay.
So you'll look at the photo.
I gotcha. Yeah. So the Chug collection, it's just you have too many pieces. So look at the Seekers, right? I think that's a good place to start. If you look at the Seekers, you don't have the core 6. You have 6, and then you have a red and white one. You got a purple one, a green one, a blue one, a yellow one, a off green one. You have 2 Starscreams. If you cut down there and can spread them out and get all those little fellas that are standing in front of it, get them out of there. They don't need to be there. Scroll down, just look at the Mirages. You got 2 Mirages sitting next to each other. 3, just get rid of 2 and have Mirage, and now you've saved yourself some space. As a result, it just looks like I know you care. It's obvious that you care. You got these slatted walls. You put the glass up. You it's so obvious, and yet it's why do you have 2 ratchets? Why do you have 2 impactors? Why do you you know what I mean? Just start alleviating some of the fluff. Take it all off. Take it all off the shelves and start putting one piece on at a time.
I think you have enough cool stuff going on that I really just create a vibe. Because how do you even enjoy any of this stuff? You just walk in, you kind of spin around, and then you walk out of this room.
This is not a room to enjoy anything in.
Right.
This is a room to just say, I have it. I have it, and it's in here.
It looks like he plays the air piano on those Hot Toys shelves.
and I do think, and I do. I'm sorry. And I do think that was funny, though. That was funny. I think this is a limitation thing. I think he has a significant other in his life that is you have this room, do whatever you want with it. If he's stuck in here and that's as far as it can go, then you need to curate the collection to fit this space.
Right,
you can't curate the space to fit this collection. It doesn't work.
I'll tell you this, too. Let me just say this for anybody. This isn't really, but anybody that does have that significant other that's I don't like all this stuff. You can have this one space and that's it. I guarantee you, if you made that space a vibe, they would be more hyped and
100%
grow from there if you wanted it to.
Dude.
But if you have it crammed in there where it just looks so chaotic and I don't want to stand in this room at all.
She's looking at this room it better never get out of here.
Right.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah. It's funny when I have when my displays are looking good or any section looks really good, that's when Lisa will be like, wow, that looks really nice. And she enjoys being around it. But when it's just crammed, when my collection everything was up and it was just shoulder to shoulder, it was just overwhelming. And it was the oh my God room.
Yeah, I think that's
the herd.
You got to make the collection fit the space, not the space fit the collection.
There you go.
Okay,
right.
Moving on to our next one. This is from Alec C. It's not all bad.
Yeah, there's some really dynamic things.
There's some good stuff going on here, but then there's some weird stuff going on here. I'm all about the variety in furniture. I'm all about the spice of life. But to have a bookshelf next to a little square bookshelf, next to a file cabinet with a floating shelf over above, now you've done variety, but you haven't made the variety look cohesive. Once the variety looks cohesive, that's what ties it together. It can't just look like random things, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't like the little step down look, either 2 Billies with that shorter shelf in the middle or Billy in the middle and 2 shorter shelves on either side that match, and that wall shelf has got to go.
The floating shelf?
The floating shelf, yeah.
Yeah, it's got to go.
It's kind of random there.
So if you have to keep that floating shelf, paint it black so it matches the furniture, and then get something else on the other side to the right of this floating shelf to kind of balance it out, and then even these 2 little cases that you have in the middle, just lift those up. It's just about creating just a flow to that whole space.
You have to look at this and say it doesn't look good, I think.
Right.
Like you have to be able to step back from this and look at this picture and be like, you know what? That's not a good layout. That doesn't look like a good space. That looks like a mess. You have to be able to acknowledge that. If you can't acknowledge that, unfortunately, you're so far behind the 8 ball where you're never really going to be able to move forward. It would be unfair for any of us to expect that you would get one of these small spaces right when you can't land the large space.
But I think there's a lot of dynamic posing, and I think it's kind of crazy, but I guess that Skylink's popping out. Is that?
It is.
So I actually feel like something like that is kind of cool, but you can't have them popping out with all this other behind him because
then it doesn't look like he's popping out. It's
right.
like a mess.
It's just kind of a mess.
Right. Yeah. I'm looking at that right now. Right.
I think this person collects very slowly. I think they're very picky in what they collect. And this is like a just getting started in a way. Even though they've obviously been collecting over a period of time, it's been a slow build. That's why that floating shelf is there. And they probably had a little bit of spillover and they figured they'd make some dios and make it work. And now you've got this spillover going on. And now you realize from the beginning, you should have gotten rid of that floating shelf as soon as you needed anything else,
Yeah. I mean,
the only reason why I kind of disagree is that why send the photo and send it in? Like, this is a person who's like, no, this is my space. And I'm really, you know what I mean?
This was sent in far after this series had gotten going. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So this person knew what this series was about and still sent this in. So like little things, right? Like, and I agree with Laura. I think that these figures are this person cares about the stuff, the figures that he's bought. He doesn't care about the furniture that he's bought, but he cares about the figures that he's bought. And like, they're all posed. They all look good. Even though he has Omega Supreme and Scorponok doing the, pardon me, crouch to fit inside of that space, they're still posed. It doesn't look awful because they have something going on. It doesn't look like they're just trying to fit in. It's like they're stuck in that pose. A lot of the Planet X and War for Cybertron, Fall of Cybertron stuff is posed really well with flight stands and everything else. Like, I think this person cares about the pieces that they buy. That's to agree with Laura and Robert. It's just that, like, to buy these pieces and to pose these figures the way that he has, I will not believe, I refuse to believe that he looked at this whole space and said, that's ready.
No, yeah. Right. And I think all he'd need to do is remove that floating shelf and get 2 more black billies, and then he'll be set. He can spread things around. He's obviously a slow collector.
Yeah.
So that display, 3 billies and he doesn't even care like if, one shelf has one type of thing, another one has another. He can spread them out and make his displays look really nice and clean with lots of nice space around each figure.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, what's interesting to me is how this really has gone from, just in general, just this series has gone from, we rarely do we talk about what figures are on the shelves. It's always about the furniture.
Yeah, because we've seen people do phenomenal displays with figures, and we've seen, unfortunately, far more do displays with phenomenal figures. That's the issue, is that people think that phenomenal figures is what gets it done. And it's not.
No, it doesn't.
It's not.
At all. And my first rule, I was just thinking about it right now. It's like, you're thinking about collecting. My number one thing is paint the room.
Yeah.
Start there.
Dude.
Paint it and think about that.
The truth of all that, the unfortunate and sad truth that nobody wants to hear is that the figures are the last thing that matter.
Yeah.
You got to pick the right colors for the wall. You got to pick the right colors for the carpet. You got to pick the right furniture. You got to pick the right sitting arrangements. You got to pick the right art. You got to pick all that, and then you can put whatever figures you want on the shelf, and it will even if you crowd them in, even if you cram them in like everybody loves to do, it will immediately look better if you've done the first 3 things right. All right.
I still suggest not crowding them in. But I think that's an eyesore.
I agree. But if you do, they will look better if the walls are painted right, the carpet looks good, and the furniture's great.
Mm-hmm. Dude, just get 3 wide billies and call it a day. Your stuff will look nice, period.
All right, let's move on to the next one. Oreo Mega. And he is a Detolphimus.
All right.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, God.
And it's just like, dude, I hate to be the one to tell you, but it's just like the 3 things we just talked about with the other dude, you did them wrong. What's sad about it is that what you did inside the shelves, you did right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know how
That's what I'm looking at.
Each one is laid out well. The posing is right. Yeah. The vertical space and all that is right. All you know how to make these figures look good. And that is
composition.
100%. That is half the battle. You nailed that. It's just the furniture. I think if you got these off the ground and you didn't put the lights the way that you have them, where it looks like you're I don't know, in Amsterdam somewhere going down the red light district, you would have a great display,
Yeah, the lights definitely are wrong for what you've got going on. And if you're going to use those lights and you can't get other ones, they need to be in the back part of the glass, not the front.
With the lights in the front, unfortunately, like the figures actually get less seen, right? Because you're seeing,
it looks like a detail full of lights.
Yeah, you're looking at the lights, and really the displays they're
great,
outstanding.
They're
like
great.
Some of the best I feel like we've seen.
Great posing, great composition, like Robert said. Like they're fantastic. Yeah, I mean, even like the stuff that he has at the top, like it is smushed in there. I weep for the day that he has to dust and take all that off and get it all back in. I weep for that day.
But it's all put in there purposefully.
It's all put in there purposefully.
I would put lights on the backside of that I would kind of hide little lights. If you can find little ones that just shine here and there, I would kind of put them in there in the back, like that needs to be lit. I would paint the walls a darker. I'm all for painting these walls dark.
The truth is I think that like if he does two things, he fixes all of his problems. Gets those details off the floor and hides the lights better.
I think he's concerned about that because some of his pieces would hit the ceiling.
Yeah,
he's got to rework the ability to raise.
Well, if they hit the ceiling, then they could fit underneath.
But definitely the lights. If you did one thing, it's fix all those lights that you have.
Yeah, the lights are the lights are the biggest issue.
Yeah. And the whatever light source you have in the ceiling is really ruining the top with the shadows cast. It makes it look even messier.
And I think
it's just a ceiling fan or like one of those like regular lights.
And I think
it's a ceiling fan light.
I think that he probably knows. That's my guess. Because he's so dialed in to like what is aesthetically pleasing within the shelf. I think he knows those lights don't work right, but he did a lot of work to get them in there. I think he turned them on and he was like, which I've felt. I've lived through that.
Oh.
I think it's like, I guess it's all the LED strip lighting, so it's a little tricky to run it another way or run it in the back of the.
Yeah, it's going to take more work.
And it's a lot of work.
Yeah. Yep. You thought you had the shortcut and you were wrong. And that's often how it is with a shortcut.
Bobby also did it wrong with the LED strip lights.
Well, it wasn't due to a shortcut, but
ripped them all out.
It was definitely wrong.
Again.
But I think that's half of it. I don't know. For me, that's half of it is messing with it until you get the combination of things right. Like how many times did you mess with these figures in their posing before you got those right? Like you got to now do that with your furniture and your setup.
Right.
And sometimes it involves dismantling the whole thing painstakingly and then putting it all back together.
Right. But it's unfortunate because I know you care. Even when you ran these lights through, that is a sign of you caring. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work. You know it. I don't believe that you don't know it because of how good these shelves look. It's some of the best detail shelves that we've seen in the entire series. Mm-hmm. So I don't believe that you don't know it doesn't work.
This Spider-Man shelf is so dope.
It's all dope.
Like a lot of them. Even that DC shelf.
The Justice League one works. The Iron Man one is probably my favorite. Like, dude, Tony Stark looking down at the armor on his hands, and that's the centerpiece. And then as you he knows exactly what he's doing.
Right. Yeah.
The Star Wars shelf. Look at the way that Leia's posed. That Luke. Like it's all fantastic. It's laid out beautifully, but it's lost because all you see is big giant blue stripes saying open for 24 hours is basically what it says.
Dude, these are all laid out like a splash panel on like a comic.
Yeah, they look great.
Yeah.
Cabbage. How about some sauerkraut and kielbasa?
How about a curmudgeon?
Ice maker.
Metallica.